Welcome back to the Cage Cast. On this episode, we actually have our first double guest episode with Phoenix and Haze. Thank you guys for coming on the show.
Yeah, no problem, Cage.
Honestly, I would just take any opportunity to hang out with you, so.
That's true.
That's so sweet. We actually, the last time we actually hung out together, it was a little different, a little wild from your normal, online friend meeting adventures go. Most people meet at TwitchCon and a playlist or whatever you call, whichever one you go to. I officiated my first wedding, and I kind of just drug you two along, so that was fun.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts when I just hit you up and said, "Hey, you wanna?"
Well, I mean, we met before, so a month or so beforehand, we actually drove out to your place for the first time because I was like, "Hey, I'm coming over." That's pretty much how it went.
That was actually a lot of fun, and. If you ask either of you, if anyone asks either of you two, I've told them that the first hour, I just kept staring at you because I was like, "There's no way you're that short."
Yeah.
He was so surprised that Phoenix is so small. I keep trying to tell people, but no one gets it.
Everyone gets the instant reaction that they think that I'm 5'6" to 5'10", somewhere in that range.
It's that camera angle you have.
Yeah. I have it set up to make me look a lot taller because of how fucking short I am. I'm actually 5'2". So, yeah. Cage, you're also rather short though, so I don't know where the issue was.
Then again, I've never shied away from that. I've always just
yeah, that's true.
"Oh, I expect you to be 6?" I'm like, "Nah, 5'7", right there, at the cutoff."
I think what really surprises people always is that I'm actually slightly taller than Phoenix because she's a lot bigger person. She's got that really outgoing personality, right? Yeah, big dick energy.
Especially the camera angles you two choose. Haze, you pick one that brings you down a lot more, and so you expect you to be about Phoenix's height, and Phoenix does the opposite where she's overcompensating and she's like, "Oh, look, I'm super tall." You want to it's reverse.
You want to know why it's like this? It's because of how her computer is sitting. It tilts back, so her camera actually shoots up, as opposed to my monitor is a lot taller than I am sitting down, so it looks down on me.
If I took this and turned it downward, it gets weird. So then you can see my whole chair and my arms and everything. So I don't like that very much. I feel chubby.
You the just head poking out of the webcam?
Yeah, just head.
Just hello.
Just a little bit head.
Just head.
Don't we all
just a little head,
It's so gross. Can we talk about that hotel room?
With the blood on the wall?
Yeah, just blood in the bathroom, just chilling. And the fact that all of our reactions were the part that scared me, because I think, was it you, Haze, that found the blood?
Yeah, I was like, guys, there's some blood on the wall in the bathroom.
You said it so calmly, and Phoenix just goes, okay.
Well, I mean, okay, we're in the middle of West Virginia, and there's some blood on the wall, alright? It's not like, you expect me to be surprised? There could be a dead hooker in the bathtub for all I fucking care. It just fits. Middle of buttfuck nowhere.
I've spent a lot of time, in the Midwest, and, random hotels, and that sort of shit really just happen.
Dude, obviously we went back up to Ohio a lot to see family, but even then we typically stayed at their houses or something. I never got that feeling from hotel rooms. And it was so calm. And then I just stared at you two, and you acted like it just that's part of the hotel. It's part of the decor, It's part of the ambiance.
It kind of was.
It was, and I don't know about you two, but I didn't touch it.
Why would I touch it?
Touch the blood?
Phoenix, don't you act like you're above that. You were the exact type of person I know who'd be like, "Hey, watch this."
Okay, that for the bit, but shit, no one's in there. What, you think I went into the bathroom on my own to take a shit and lick the blood on the wall?
Sometimes you just have to take a little suck when you can, You just take it when you can get it.
Also, Haze, you robbed a Goodwill. You awful, awful person.
You robbed you didn't steal from Walmart?
That's different. I stole from a corporation. I stole from a man.
Goodwill's a corporation, too. They're just trying to make a little money.
I just stole a cone.
I accidentally watched... So we went into the Goodwill to try and find a suit for Cage. and
Because
he
I didn't prepare. I didn't buy the suit before the wedding. I bought it the day before, and
and partially the day of.
yeah, because we found out I grabbed the wrong stuff, so I was almost late to the wedding.
So he
That's
just-
not important.
So
Yeah,
he just passed me
so
off
what
a
he
tie.
does- Yeah, no. The day of the wedding, he forces us to get in the car with him, and he's just like, I have forgotten everything. Everything is wrong. And so he's driving like 90 to 108 down the highway, and I'm just like watching his speed dial, and I'm like, yeah, we're gonna fucking die. But it wasn't like that, right? It's not because he was a crazy ass driver. I was okay with the fact that we were driving fast. It was driving fast on the way back on the curvy back roads on the side of the mountain where
And
he
we
almost
almost
just drove
actually
us off
died.
the fucking side.
Just going around this curve.
Dude, so there was a section of the road where it's all curves and all gravel, and obviously it slipped a little at one point, and I was like, oh, haha, we're gonna die. And then the next turn, my back wheels spun way out farther than I thought they were going to, and we almost actually died.
This
And I got
motherfucker is
very
Tokyo
quiet.
drifting his mom van around these like side mountains of West Virginia. And me and Haze are laughing about it. And he's like, oh my God, we almost fucking died. Why are you guys laughing? I was like, what am I supposed to do? Scream? I already know my fate. Like shit.
We were both like, "If we die, we die." And I think that was also a moment for you, Cage.
It was so nuts. It was not what you expect to happen. I thought it was like, oh, haha, funny. And then the road was like, huh, you think I'm joking? And we almost actually died. And I was like, okay, so that was scary. And then I actually look at where we would have ended, and it's like a 500-foot drop just. And I was just, dude, my eyes got so wide. I was like, oh my God. We went to.
It's funny because we're going over, going, it's fine. Oh my gosh, we just almost died.
There was a point.
It was like willing us to survive.
That was coming back to the wedding. I think the first time actually going to the wedding where we were on time, there was just two dogs on the road. I just stopped the car, got out, and just started petting dogs, and one of them almost jumped in the car. I had to pull him back.
Ass dogs in the
He's
woods of
like,
West Virginia.
He's like, what if we steal a dog and put him in a suit? Do you think they'll know that the dog's there? And I'm just like, nah, man, get that dog in this fucking car.
We just start picking up the dogs, and then we sell them back to the people, and then we pick them up again.
It was so weird because I just rocked up on two random dogs that could have been wild, and I just no questions asked, no hesitation. I got on one knee and just started petting the dogs.
Yeah, you know what? And that wasn't the only time you got out of the car on the way there. You also drove a little bit further and got out of the car to yell at this doe that was in the middle of the road. And then later looked up the side of the mountain and was like, holy shit, that's a big deer. And then you got in the car and like peeled off thinking that the deer was going to come attack your fucking car.
I was terrified because he was staring. No deer is posted.
Gets out of the car and he's just yelling at these deer, and he's like, "Oh yeah, blah blah blah." I'm yelling at the deer, and then he's like, "That's a big boy."
But it's because it was just a random doe in the street, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna cuss it out and yell it, and it did go away. And then something just told me, look left, and right up the mountain there, I'm talking a beefy boy of a deer, and that homie wasn't just there, he was staring me down, and I was like, oh no, I just talked to his woman. This ain't good. I gotta go. Yeah, I also for some reason just became the baby holder of the wedding, where just females with babies would walk up and just be like, hey, can you hold him for a second? And then 2 hours later show up and say, hey, sorry, that took a little longer than I expected.
That wedding was one of the most awkward things I've ever done, because it was just Phoenix and I hanging out. We don't know any of these people. We're just sitting there, and we're getting, like, the judgment looks. We just were sitting together like the two little girls from The Shining, because we kept walking places together. We didn't want to be separated.
Dude,
do you know,
it was like...
I assume you guys got a ton of, like, awkward looks from the family and all that, but could you imagine what I got? Because they were like, what is he doing here? I got told by 2 people saying, like, are you even supposed to be here? And I said, well, kinda. Kevin invited me. And then an hour later, I'm the officiant, and they're just staring at. I see them in the seats, and I just stared them down, and they were just like, "Are you? That's the pastor?" It's like, yeah.
Me and Haze before the wedding actually just went to the basement area and just hung out there for like an hour.
We went into the men's bathroom of this like camp we were hanging out at, and we were just like chilling in the men's room.
Yeah, she took a piss. I was taking mirror selfies. It was pretty great.
So before the wedding actually started, where the groomsmen were getting ready and the bridesmaids were getting ready, I essentially had to take charge because no one was picking a decision. So, the 20-year-old reverend over here has to just make it happen and tell everyone what to do. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, there were some fine females. I'm just going to put that out there anyway. But I go to check on the bride and all them, see like timing wise, like, hey, how much longer we got? And they were stressed. They were freaking out, not knowing what to do. They were trying to hurry. You know what I mean? And I was like, let me go check on the boys. The boys have been ready for 2 hours in their suits, and now 3 of them are halfway out of a window poking at shit in a gutter with a stick because they're that bored. And I was just like, what's happening? And they just said, we're waiting.
I mean, well, you're just like standing around trying to round people up, even as like the wedding is getting started. Phoenix and I are trying to stream, and we're sitting there like, should we stream now? I don't know.
Yeah.
You could have done anything, but I know it was so awkward because it was like, it's nothing to do. Mm-hmm. But I was trying so hard with, because everyone was making fun of the one dude. I want to say his name was Brandon, because he wasn't there when everyone else was, because he had to go actually get his shirt because he got the wrong one, and it was before the wedding, and they were like, oh, haha, look at him, he forgot. And I go into the room, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to get changed, boys. And I'm talking 3 minutes later, I realized the pants don't fit, the shirt don't fit, I forgot the tie. There was a lot going on. And I just ran out, grabbed you two, and said, all right, we're leaving now. We left, came back, and then Kevin was like, hey, man, where'd you go? And I said, oh, I had to go to Walmart and buy a whole new set of clothes. He said, you did what? And I said, I'm here, aren't I?
That's true.
He was just like, why? I said, boy, I couldn't fit in the pants. I'm not going to rock up there just with... Could you imagine someone walking up, being the reverend, pants are undone, and they're just holding on by the thighs? Just hoping. Just hoping.
But your shirt was kind of praying, too, towards
the
end.
Dude, yeah. I'm telling you, because... okay, so the largest they had was one under what I could wear, and I was like, I have to make it work. There's no options. So the entire service, I am like full on sucking everything I've got in. Every button looks like Spider-Man in that scene when he's holding the train back. He's just holding it together. And then at the end of the wedding, when I told everyone leave, I went off to the side room where all the boys were. And then Brandon, who had said, hey man, are you good? And I said, cover your eyes. He said, what? And I, like, where the Spider-Man were holding on, and it's just holes, put my fingers in between, and I ripped the shirt off, and buttons flew everywhere. And I just hear, holy shit, get down!
Yep.
And the rest of the time we were there, and we went and ate food, I had nothing on underneath but like a wife beater. And yep. I had the wife beater on that was tucked into my dress pants, and I had the now ripped and torn shirt just draped over me, and I was eating that chicken and rice.
Dude, that chicken was so good.
Oh, that chicken was really good.
That chicken was so good.
Dude, Amaya's grandma can really cook.
I really forgot to bring like any food for myself to eat at all on that trip. I really like.
You had to microwave potatoes.
I barely ate for like several days.
That's right.
Oh, and then we went to Denny's and we had good food, and you were like, "Oh, can I get hash browns?"
It was Bob Evans.
Bob Evans.
That's
and
right.
They did your hash browns dirty, and then you just sat there and just stared at it. We're like, "Well, I can't eat." And then Phoenix, without saying a word, just starts eating your hash browns.
He's just like,
yeah. I mean, it's not like it mattered. Cage was sitting there getting mad at this old man for looking at him the whole time. He's like, that fucking old man's looking at me. You guys see that old man looking at me? Dude, I'm gonna go fuck this shit up. And I'm just like, Cage, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it doesn't matter.
He was like a 90-year-old man.
Yeah, but he was staring. That doesn't change the fact. You have some decorum at a Bob Evans, okay? You have some respect.
That was like a 90-year-old man. He's like,
don't care.
He can probably barely see with the cataracts.
Well, he about to see these fists when they start flying. I swear to God. Because, okay, I'm sat, and then Phoenix and Haze were on the opposite side looking at me. On this side, where we were at, all the way at the end, there's an old man just hard staring me down. And then I decided, I'm going to intimidate him. And so I started staring him down back, and he didn't back down. And then I got intimidated.
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. This man's probably old and senile. This is the first time his wife and children have or grandchildren, I guess, taken him out to go eat breakfast on a nice Sunday. And he's just like, man, I love whatever the fuck he was eating. And then you're just sitting there going, this old man, he's probably like kind of delusional a little bit. Like,
this is the first time he's been out of the house in a few years. And the first thing he gets is me walking up to him. "We got a problem, man? Let's take this outside."
You just like deck some guy's shit. He's got osteoporosis.
Okay. There was a point, because we got a 2-bedroom hotel, and I was in one of them in the middle of the night. I got I'm talking a mad cramp, right? I mean, a huge Charlie horse in my leg. I woke up in so much. Okay, I'm laughing because I know what happened. I woke up and I'm talking so much pain. And so the only thing I could do, because if I tried standing on it, it just hurt more. Laying down, it hurt the same. So I was on all fours, like knees and hands. I'm writhing in pain, and I'm trying to breathe, and I'm hearing nothing. They're not asking if I'm okay, so I'm like, they're sleeping. I just need to sleep. And I cried myself to sleep that night. And apparently, from what I was told, they both were awake. They both saw everything that happened. They just decided not to say anything.
This man is just screaming and moaning and fucking the bed. And I'm like, I'm not getting involved in that. He's on the whole doggy style.
I was playing on completely the other side of the fucking room. So like Haze was between me and Cage was in the other bed. And I'm laying on my side, and I hear Cage, like, screaming and moaning, and I kind of sit up and look over, and he's kind of, like, writhing, and I was just like, damn, he is fucking hard in his dream. You know what? I'm just not. And then I turned back over and tried so fucking hard to ignore what was happening.
I was just kind of laying on my side, and I'm just watching this go down, like...
But I am in so much pain, and I'm like, they're sleeping. I can't do this to them. I'm just gonna go to sleep. I cried all night till I fell asleep. Woke up, and then they just said, "Oh yeah, no, we watched the whole thing."
Dude,
not even a. Hey, are you good?
Yeah.
Do you think I was gonna get involved?
You could have just said, "Hey, are you done?" If you thought it was that.
You know,
I was already traumatized from the whole night because I'm deeply disgusted by Haze touching me at any single point. The whole night she was taking her foot and rubbing it up and down my thigh, like the whole night. No matter where I'd move in the bed, she would somehow manage to take her fucking foot all the way up to my like upper thigh and like rub it up and down. And I'm just like, how do you even manage to get your foot up here? Like, stop fucking touching me. I'd like kick her back and like hit her.
I have no idea.
She would just like get there, her foot on my thigh, no matter what. Like there was no in between. So yeah, I didn't give a fuck about you fucking the bed, Cage. Like I just wanted everything to be done.
Oh,
that night was wild.
I don't think any of us really sleep, but we were all assuming the other people were sleeping hard.
Yeah, because it was dead silent. And I was just like, I didn't want to be rude. Turns out you two just let me die. And just like, oh no, he's in pain. He's cool.
Well,
he'll walk
I
off.
mean, for one, the weirdest thing was we went to bed at like 10 p.m. Tell me any of us go to bed at 10 p.m.
We were so dead, though.
Yeah, I was really exhausted because, like, our morning started really fucking early because he, like, he showed up at, like, 8 a.m. just for us to drive, like, 8 hours to...
I had to drive an hour to get you, then 4 to 5.
Yeah.
Oh, it was rough. No, it was a 2-hour to you because of where I was. But, so for me... I got you guys at 8. I woke up at fucking 5:30, and I got showered. I got ready. I picked you up. We left. Got to the place. That was the fact there was no, and I'm talking no cell reception, terrified me a little bit because of just how in the mountains we were.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any cell reception here.
Dude,
I do.
It was terrifying. Like that. There was nothing, and then the creepy what's that dude? Is it Nathan Bates? Or Nathan, whatever. I'm trying to think of the horror dude who owns a hotel.
Oh,
the
Norman.
Bates Hotel. Norman Bates. We had the Norman Bates Hotel that was right down the street from my boy Kevin's house. Remember that one we pulled up on?
We should have stayed there. I think we would have slept much better over there.
Dude,
there wouldn't have been blood in the walls.
It said hotel in the most. It was one of those signs that each letter was made from a different previous sign.
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I was like, hotel. And I decided to actually look at it, and it's just 3 trailers glued together. And I was like, oh, let's do it. And Phoenix looks.
Like, hell yeah.
Oh, the second time. The first time you looked and said, hell no, drive. That was an experience for sure.
Dude, I almost died. I almost died 3 different times on that trip.
I was just about to say, are we going to talk about when Cage almost pushed Phoenix right out the car?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, like, not only did I almost die because he drove us off the mountain, but I have this voice I do sometimes that sounds like an actual child, but it's not. It's like unsettling, and I'll do the child voice. And, like, I was just doing it the whole, like, drive there, and it finally pushed Cage over the edge, where he's just like, that's it, get the fuck out of my car. And I was like, fine, I'm going. And I unplugged my seatbelt and, like, swung it back, unlocked the door, and opened the door while we were going down the highway. Now, Cage drives fast. Cage was already driving, like, fucking 60 to 80 miles an hour down this, like, little-ass, like, country road. I opened the door jokingly, and Cage two-hands me and pushes, and then I almost fall out the fucking door. And I was like, Cage, what the fuck? He's just like, I didn't mean to push you that hard. I'm like, I weigh like 100 pounds. What do you think that, what type of push do you think that I deserve to not be moved at all?
I didn't think you like, I didn't think you what's it like weighed that less, like you were that light. I was like, oh, I'll just give it a little shove.
I mean, she'd already almost got foot launched. Like out of the car. She had her foot like outside the door.
I didn't know that. All I thought was like
open.
I thought you were doing what everyone does, where they just like open the door, wait a second, then close the door. But your foot was out, and so by the time I actually pushed, you were already halfway out. And then Haze just sat back there, didn't say a word, just like, well, she almost died.
Yeah.
Right.
Almost drove off the cliff, almost dropped Phoenix off the mountain. What was the third one?
I feel like it was like another incident with the car.
Why is it always with my driving? Listen, I'm a good driver, okay?
You know, you are a pretty good driver.
You're a pretty good driver. Just the thing is we were doing dumb shit.
I'm gonna say, okay, I am a good driver, but we were in very intense situations at one point, and there was no choice. I had to go. Could you imagine everyone's ready and the Reverend's late to the wedding? Bro,
I mean, to be fair, you had plenty of time. The wedding still was off like 3 more hours after you came back.
Yeah, so we thought we were going to be late, and that's why I was hurrying. But by the time we got there, everyone kept saying, oh yeah, there's a certain item that was left at the house that they forgot about. And they kept referring to it as this certain item. It turns out somebody left all of the food. I'm talking all of the food. Nothing, not even the Cokes. There was nothing there. And what had happened is all of the groomsmen and some of the bridesmaids got really high that night. And they just forgot the food. And
that was such a country wedding on so many levels.
Oh, yeah. My buddy Kevin definitely looked like a dude named Jebediah. Like he was a Mormon. He had that Jesus
honestly,
hair.
He looked like a guy named Kevin to me.
Yeah.
Kind of look like Kevin to me, if you ask me.
You kind of look like a Kevin, I'm just saying.
Well,
maybe
I'm not gonna lie.
Kind of guy whose name starts with a K and ends with an N. Or maybe with a V in the middle.
Well, maybe. But so you guys met Kevin. That was your first time ever meeting him. I've known that fucker for like 5-6 years now. I know what Kevin used to be like. And to see him like kind of responsible and mature, it was weird. Because he was like super respectful, even to you guys who he had just met. He was just like, "Hey, sorry I haven't talked to you too much. Everything's been so busy, but thanks for showing up." And he was really like kind. And I was just like, "That's not the Kevin I know." Because that man who was like nice to you and treated you with some respect, I had started my car when I was leaving McDonald's. He ripped me out of my car, threw me to the ground, locked himself in my car, and then hit me with my own car. So yeah, that's the same guy. You understand why I was a little taken aback that whole trip.
Seems like same old Kevin to me. Like that was definitely a man who could run over another man with a car. I had those friends.
Car. Imagine telling somebody like, "Well, what's one of the more traumatic experiences you've had?" Well, I fought a hobo. I got ran over by my own car. People look at you like you're the dumb one.
You know,
like,
no, that's I get that look a lot because my best friend when I was in like 4th through 7th grade, my best friend used to come over to my house, lock me in my dog pen, would turn on the electric fence and play prison guard, which is where she would tell me to climb out while she beat me with a stick. So like I get that look a lot too. So
I've gotta try that.
yeah, you want to play prison guard with me? It's like a 30 by 40 dog pen, and you just kind of try to climb out.
Dude, that's a YouTube video. That 100% is a YouTube video. Let's play prison guard. Dude.
I would totally play prison guard. I even remember playing that at like an old fort. It wasn't quite the same thing because there was no electric fence, but
but someone was getting beat with a stick, so same thing.
Mostly.
Did you guys ever have like weird games you played as a kid with your friends?
Well, friends, no, but yes.
Okay, what? Do you have
Both
an
of you
example,
two
Haze?
assume I have friends. But yeah, definitely. I think we played a lot of pretend, but sometimes the pretend was like really strongly based in historical events that maybe should not be reenacted by children.
Did you reenact Auschwitz a few times?
Oh no!
We got really into the Civil War at one point, especially like the Civil War concentration camps. So,
oh no!
I remember dissecting multiple dolls so that we could like put their bodies into like multiple containers, mummy style. Like that was a thing.
How did I find the perfect question to ask?
You know, me and the same friend who used to lock me in the dog pen, we'd also play like Indians is what we called it, which is where we would like make forts outside and like you know, bring our pocket knives out, and we'd go into the woods for like many days straight and not come back. And you know, there were like we would piss in the woods, you know, your normal thing. But like on top of that, we would like she had a tendency of eating raw animals. So like she would catch like frogs and like rip the legs off and eat the raw frog legs, and then like she'd catch the crawdads and like stab them through the head with the pocket knife and then just start like eating those raw. She'd be like, "You want some dinner?" And I'd be like, "No." Like I know how to forage berries out here. I don't need that. And she's like
That's terrifying.
My friends and I used to eat weird stuff too. Like, you know me, I've always been eating weird plants and gunk off the ground and you know all that.
Bones and all that good stuff.
Bones are actually normal food for me. Still eat that. Well, I also still eat like weird bugs and stuff off the ground. But anyway,
as much as I say it like, oh, that's weird. I've seen it happen so much. I'm used to it now, and now I'm just kind of numb. Like, yeah, she eats bones.
I do eat bones. I remember we would do something called making cicada soup, which was usually part of our game of like you know, preparing for the winter was one played a lot, my siblings and I. And where we'd go around and pull like all the like the cicada exoskeletons that were left behind on all the trees and throw them in a big pot of water. That was fun. Sometimes we'd eat it, but usually it was just like part of the cooking process.
I was gonna say in middle school, my friends would play games like who can get hit the hardest. And we would just throw things really hard at each other.
Well, I mean, that's always a game. We would not throw things at the person, but we'd always play the bike game, where someone would ride their bike through like a group of people, and everyone would either try to hit them off the bike or try to like throw sticks in the like wheel well to knock the bike off of them, basically.
Yeah, we did the same thing in Wisconsin too. Especially, you know, Wisconsin's got some nice glacial hills. So we had a nice hill in our neighborhood, and we'd take bikes down the hill, and people would try and knock you off the bikes while you were going down.
I mean, I lived in Missouri, so everything was flat.
That's why I mentioned the hills.
Yeah.
We would play flag football, and if you know flag football, you can't tackle. You have to grab the flag. That's how you get him out. We would bully like one kid a game, and just like, all right, we'll just tackle him and take any flags on the play, and just everyone's like, haha, fun ripping off our flags. We'd see this one kid, and me and my other friends who are just as big as me, we would just dogpile this kid, and I'm talking like break his spine. It was nuts. Like, we were awful children, just horrible people.
mostly just weird. Yeah,
Okay.
I was bullied a lot as a child, like, everyone was, it doesn't matter, but mostly I just kind of combated that by being as weird as possible. Because,
You know,
it's one thing to get the shit kicked out of you, and it's another thing to be like, yeah, hit me harder, daddy.
yeah, you know what? I actually have very similar experience with that, and I had to re-explain it to somebody that I work with the other day.
Mhm.
I was talking about how I was bullied until I became a bully, which I was a hardcore bully 7th grade on.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah, no, it's very
Just look
unsurprising.
at Phoenix and tell me she would not have given you a wedgie.
I didn't give people wedgies. I kicked the shit out of them until they threw up. But basically, this kid's just like, I could tell he was never bullied because he's not mean. He's just kind of a gentle guy, and you could tell he was cool with everyone. But he said something to me that he was going to spit on my hands or something, and I told him I'd just suck the spit off my hand. He's like, whoa, what the fuck? And I was just like, oh, sorry. Which is an old defense mechanism, because if you were getting bullied, right, and then you told them, like, it didn't affect you, and then you would just, like, play off of it, it would actually bother them way more than actually just, like, bullying you.
And
so,
then
like,
you'd win.
Girl, right. So this one girl would, like, take the gum out of her mouth and be like, or no, she'd be like, do you want a piece of gum? And I'd be like, yeah, sure, why are you being nice to me? And she'd take the gum out of her mouth and try to, like, stick it on me. Well, at one point, I just fucking lost it and, like, grabbed the gum out of her hand and threw it in my mouth and started chewing it, which isn't terribly weird, but, like, it's weird enough to get people to stop doing whatever the fuck that was.
Mm-hmm.
And people tried to harass me with that, and I was like, I don't care. Dude, I bet you'd want to kiss Erica. Like, I'd fucking kiss her right on the lips. You know what? I even took her gum and chewed her own spit. How do you feel about that? That bothered everyone. And that's when I was like, you know what? I like the power. So, like, I went from, like, kind of that weird, and then spiraled into, like, beating the shit out of people. And it was fantastic.
It's that idea of, like, trying to make someone feel different and feel weird, like, oh, you're not like us, you're different. And if you just play with it and say, yeah, what about it? And then they're like, oh no, what have I done?
Yeah.
Because I forgot what it was. It's just one of the simple ones that obviously now, because we all do this essentially, it seems like normal for us, but like especially in school, especially the first few times it happens, no one's expecting it. And me and my buddies were hanging out, and some dude just walks up and says, oh, look at these F-word slur for gay people. And then I just said, yeah, what about it? You want to fuck this? I'll suck your dick right now, bitch. And then it got really uncomfortable, and that dude never talked to us again.
Yeah.
So if it works, it works, you know?
It does.
Modern problems require modern solutions.
That's right.
I had some awful teachers in high school, especially, and one of them, I have no problem saying her name. I fucking hate her. Her name's Miss Webb, and she is, I want to say about 600 pounds. She is like 5'4". She was mean, rude to everyone. She was the kind of lady who was in her 50s who really liked Frozen and all of the Disney movies. That kind of like encompassed her. And at one point she actually pulled up she was going to look something up on her computer, and you know when you click in the search bar of Google, it'll drop down some of your recent. Yeah, one of them was Rule 34 Elsa, and then she quickly started typing to get that off, but we all saw it. We're all quick readers. And there was one point where she hated me and my best friend Tyler. And we would just we done nothing wrong. We just pissed her off a lot, and then she pissed us off, so it was just a back and forth. And there were times that like she looked at us and called us special eds. She called us retarded. She said like horrible things to us in front of class, and no one did anything. And she was one of those who had been around just long enough to actually get tenure. And so she was there to be there. And so we were like, well, she's not getting fired anytime soon. Let's break her. And so we would tag team. There was the one time I remember specifically. You know these pens, the Pilot G2s, the ones everyone uses.
Mm-hmm.
The actual cap itself is just large enough where if you jam it and like bend the plastic inside of an Allen wrench screw, you can actually twist it. So I had an extra one, And I told Tyler, hey, go distract her. So he was out in the hallway, just pissing her off. She was screaming and yelling at him. I was unscrewing 2 of the bolts on her chair. And when she came in, already upset, she sat and whoop, and everyone was like, oh, are you okay? Oh my God. Me and Tyler in the back of the class fucking rolling. And our friend Hannah just like looks at her laying on the ground in pain, looks at everyone freaking out, looks at us laughing and says, you 2 are assholes. I didn't care. It was so good. But it was we all hated her so much. There were, so Tyler's way of getting back at her, she also ran she was the person you paid to get prom tickets. And
Right.
she said, I will only accept exact change unless you put in an order. If you're giving me cash, it has to be exact. So he gave her exact change in pennies. And he gave it to her. She
Classic.
said, are you serious? Is this what you're going to do to me? And he said, that's all I've got. You've got to accept it. And so he sat there and watched her count out. I think it was like $50 worth of pennies. And just
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4. She was pissed. The last thing with Miss Webb is it was nice because I didn't have to, I got to prove her wrong, you know? It wasn't one of those where like, oh, she was just mean just to be mean and nothing ever happened of it. I got a victory of my own where, so obviously she called us stupid in the special needs section and she was like horrifically rude to us. And in her class, I never did homework in high school in general. I never did homework. So I always got bad classes. I always got the regular classes because my homework and actual classroom grade was always bad. But quizzes and tests were always 100s because I know what I'm doing, but I don't need to prove it. So I just didn't. Right. And my grade in her class was, I think, a 32. And the final exam, I think the highest grade ever on the English 11 exam was like 92 or something. And then we took it that year and I got a 98. And it took me up to passing grade. And not only did I prove her wrong, I made history in her class, and then we moved on. And fuck her, but I'm glad I got one last win.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever have a bad teacher?
I did. Her name was Miss Richardson. Now, I never personally did anything to Miss Richardson, but the reason why I didn't is because all my friends had my back whenever she ruined one of my high school things. So I was a smart kid. I did all my work. I was in the National Junior Honor Society. Now, this teacher already, nobody ever liked her. And it was, to the point where, people just didn't care anymore. One kid was like, yo, I gotta go to the bathroom. She's like, too bad. And so I just stood up and pissed himself, right in the middle of class. That is, how much that teacher had, driven all of us to madness. And so, she was like, yeah, no, we were watching Frozen for the 3rd time that year, within the month. Yeah, that's how much she liked Frozen. So
Rule 34th.
Rule 34 Elsa, yeah. So anyway, it was the 3rd time watching Frozen, and I was just like, hey, why do I have a 0 on this assignment? And she's just like, oh, well, you never turned it in. I was like, you never asked for it. She never asked for us to turn it in. It was something we did at the beginning of class and threw away. No one turned it in but 2 people.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, well, would you like me to return it in? She's like, it's too late. And I was just like, let me just go to talk to Spinagle about this. Everything will be fine. So I left the classroom, avoiding a fight completely. And I went and talked to the principal. And the principal, got a call before we started talking. He's like, Hung up the phone. I was like, okay, so tell me what you want. I told him the whole story. I was just like, if this was something that, she actually asked us to turn in, damn well your son and the superintendent's son would have turned in this paper. And he's just like, oh, yeah, of course. What are you guys doing? I was like, we're watching Frozen for the 3rd time this month. And he's just like, oh, go to the trailer, which the trailer is the ISS building in most places. So I went there, and that is because she called him beforehand saying that she sent me to the office. And because she sent me to the office and he sent me to the trailer, I was considered to be an ISS and I got kicked out of National Junior Honor Society. And because of that, it sent everyone on this downhill spiral on this teacher. People were putting that mouth-numbing gel in her coffee every morning. People were, like, shitting on her desk. Like, the classics, right? Like, there was so many things. People were, like, writing shit on her board that was, like, damn near death threats. And the reason why is because you could shove your lunch cart on the side of the door and flick it a little bit, and it would unlock the door, and specifically her door. And, like, people were, like, undoing the shit on her chair to where her chair was falling apart when she'd sit in it. She'd set stuff on her desk, and her whole desk would collapse. And then I think my favorite revolt against this teacher was kids would sit in her fucking classroom and jack off on, like, the bottom of her desk, on the bottom of all the other desks, like, on the board, like, shit like that, like, things that she had to touch. People were just coming on it. And I was like, why is that what you choose to do? And they're just like, haha, because she has to touch it. And I'm like,
I think that's a form of sexual assault.
It doesn't matter.
What are you going to tell the cops? Fuck her.
They didn't. She was too scared to tell anyone because she knew it would only get worse if she did.
Oh, God.
Yep. So no one ever got in trouble for all of that shit.
We had so most of the high school had normal, like, flat ceilings, because we went to a magnet school which had a little more of a budget than a public school, but not much. Like, all the budget didn't go to our cool stuff. It went to the building. But hers on the bottom floor where she was at, they also had those drop tile ceilings. And so, you know, like fart sprays, they have them in packet form. And so we would do is we'd make sure she was out and no one was around, and we would have two dudes take like 4 or 5 of them and just strategically place them in the inside of the ceiling, so it would drop down and you couldn't find it unless you thought, oh, maybe it's in the ceiling, and people thought you were crazy. So
it wasn't much for somebody to put some sort of rotting food in the ceiling tiles anywhere. So yeah, I get that.
We had some weird senior pranks in my school. This one year, a homie went through and put goldfish in every toilet, including the teacher's lounge ones, and like not the food, actual goldfish. Just a ton of them. And someone considered, before it was reported and they got told, no, you actually can't do that, that's animal cruelty, was they were going to take a bunch of hamsters and leave them in certain teachers' classrooms, so they just shit everywhere, and it was just hamsters running around the class.
You know, our school senior pranks got a little out of hand too. They like to put things on the roof. So it was, you know, those like pieces of farm equipment, bobcats. Somebody got one of those on the roof one time and then wouldn't take it down.
That's really impressive.
That was the most impressive one I'd seen by far. Somebody came in and put like giant hay bales in front of every single door in front of the school, and it was delayed by 2 hours because they couldn't move them without the like correct equipment.
Those things weigh like 2,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Somebody let loose 2 pigs in the school, and then numbered them 1 and 3. So that they were constantly looking for number 2.
Okay, that's smart.
That's so smart.
Yeah. God, there was so many. Like, our school went way, like, overboard with senior pranks. Mostly because we were a small school. We kind of just did whatever the fuck we wanted.
Where our school was, as soon as you left the gate, it was like not even a minute walk. Like right beside the school was a restaurant called Los Arcos, which is just a little Mexican restaurant. And so any point in the day, students were liable to just disappear and end up eating at a Mexican buffet right across the street and then show back up. And they're like, where were you? I said, I went to Los Arcos. Like, you get a pass or something? I said, no, I just left. There was one dude who was connected to the Wi-Fi and forgot he watched porn in the bathroom, jacked off, came out, realized his phone was connected to the Wi-Fi the whole time, decided to take it upon himself to go to the office and rat himself out and say, hey, so I didn't realize I was so connected to the internet and I watched porn and I wanted to apologize for that. And they were like, you know, we just, even if we found it, never would have mentioned it to you. And he was just like, oh. And so he got detention. As much as our school, especially in the county we were in, got the got the rap of being like, oh, that's the smart school. They've got all the good stuff. We didn't. The whole thing to get into our school was you had to have like a 3.0 GPA, and certain test grades had to meet a certain mark, and then you had to write an essay, and then you get in. That was it. There's nothing special. There were no security cameras at all my freshman year. Halfway through the freshman year, they got them installed quickly, and I'm talking like the top of the line, brand newest models, because one of the freshmen was sucking off a senior in the stairwell. So
that's just normal.
We gotta. So do you know what Blue Ribbon is?
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, Blue Ribbon is an award to schools for being like the top school and in your state, I think. My school got the Blue Ribbon when I was in senior year, and the day before our Blue Ribbon ceremony, where they had like the actual governor and people show up, a kid got escorted off property because he had like 3 pounds of weed in his car, and he had intent on selling. And he got his mugshot that day. We all took screenshots and made it our profile pictures for a while, and it was interesting.
That's so okay. So I come from Missouri, very small town school. Missouri likes to cover everything up. Nothing ever makes it to the news in Missouri, mainly because they don't care. Like, the shit that makes it to the news is stuff that Missouri is proud of, because Missouri does not want people outside of Missouri thinking that Missouri is more whack than Florida. Now, my school, we never won any sort of award because we had to have a lockdown once a week where the cops came in with drug dogs and made sure to check all the lockers because people would do meth in the bathroom constantly. And then they also had to constantly check after this one guy who was like super sus over everything. He went home and started cutting up his little sister's pet rabbits, right, in front of them and cooking them in his front yard, where his sister's boyfriend came over and was like, yo, dude, you can't cut up those rabbits. Those are pets. And then he's just like, this is my house. I'll do whatever the fuck I want. He's like, yo, you need to not do that, though. So the kid's like, okay, I won't do it. And got up and walked into his house and then walked back out with a shotgun and shot that guy in the face, which he didn't die. It just, like, took out his whole right side of his face and his eye and everything.
Jesus
and,
Christ.
So the kid made this, like, major getaway on, like, a 3-wheeler, and there was a cop chase, like, down the country roads with this kid on a 3-wheeler until he ended up hitting the like, ditch and then, like, flying forward into a barbed wire fence and breaking both of his arms. And so he was in the hospital and then eventually, like, went to juvie afterwards after this, like, major cop chase. And then they're like, man, maybe we should search his locker. They opened up his locker and there was, like, hunting knives in there and, like, a whole bunch of guns in the locker. And they're like, oh, fuck. So, like, we had a weekly check of everything to make sure that didn't happen again.
So I don't know if you're listening to this. My little brother Nathan, love you, bud. He's always had an obsession with knives and like just collecting them. He has just boxes filled with knives that he thinks looks cool. He doesn't use them. He doesn't care. He just has them because he thinks they look cool. And the first time, the school I went to and grew up in is the same one that he went to, and so I had already given like a reputation to the teachers and the staff, and so when my brother showed up, they were just like, "Oh, okay, cool. What's up, man?" And the principal already knew me and my family and was like, "Oh, nothing bad would happen here. We're good." She was walking down the halls, and my little brother Nathan was drinking water out of a water fountain. And she was like, "Oh, hey, Nate, how's it going?" And then he's like, "Good." And she's like, "What's that in your pocket, bud?" And he just goes, "Oh, it's a knife." And she's like, "Okay, why?" And she said, "Why do you have a pocket knife? You know you're at school, right?" And this little motherfucker looks at her dead in her face and just goes, "No one said anything yesterday." Well, okay. And it wasn't a
Yeah.
normal knife. It was a Batman knife. It was shaped like the bat symbol, like the Batarang.
I got
but
one
both
of those.
the wings shot out.
They come out, yeah.
Then middle school shows up. He hadn't learned his lesson yet. And he... So... He came home because it was the day that they clean out their lockers. And his buddy Liam had like stacked, I'm talking tons of Mountain Dew bottles in his locker. So everyone just walked up and just grabbed like 10 and then just dipped. And Nate was showing me, and I thought, oh, this is funny. So we threw his, I was like, why's your backpack so heavy? And he's like, oh, open it, it's Mountain Dews. And I open it, and the stepdad's like right over there. And I was like, okay. And I was like, haha, big funny. Like, there's 1, there's 2, there were 13. And I was like, and he was just like, Jesus Christ. And then I reach in for another, and then my eyes just, because there were 3 of the tactical knives with the window breakers. and then I just like hand in the backpack. I just looked up at Nate, and he knows what I just found, and he just gives me this oh no, this is not good. And I slowly turn around and look at Ted, and I'm just like, hey Ted, and he's just like, what? And then I just pull out just 3 knives, and Ted's eyes just widen. He's like, oh my God. And the whole thing was, how did you not learn your lesson the first time? And his defense was, oh, I was just going to show Victor after school. You shouldn't bring them to school. Period. It didn't seem like a hard thing to get. What do I know? You know? Dude.
I'm not one to talk. We were able to carry knives at my school.
Like, you were bumfuck nowhere.
Yeah.
The knife, how are you going to defend yourself?
Yeah.
That's such a weird thought.
We were allowed knives at my school as well, yeah.
Yeah, you were allowed to have them if they were the same size as your palm or under 3 inches. So whichever was bigger for you, you can have.
Yeah, that was the rule at mine as well.
Mm-hmm.
What?
I think that's like a usual Midwest thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
It's in the rule books.
I actually got... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't have very much public school experience because I was actually homeschooled through most of my upbringing. Mm-hmm. I went to public school for like a short while in Wisconsin. So I don't really have any like crazy teacher stories, but totally gets you on the knives and weapons thing. That was such a big thing in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got a rule changed in my middle school's rule book, and it wasn't anything bad either. Like, I did
too.
I wanted to be able to be that one that got a specific rule in there for something cool. It wasn't. So growing up, I went to a charter school, and they make you wear uniforms. And it's not like a traditional uniform. You can wear khakis or blue or navy blue pants, and you can wear polo shirts that are solid colors. So any color, as long as it's solid, no graphics. That was it, right? Mm-hmm. I decided it was boring, and I read the rule book because I was like, I want to make sure I'm not breaking any rules here and I can get away with this. I started wearing like full-on suits. Like dress shoes, dress pants.
That's so in character.
Shirt and tie. And everyone was like, oh, you look spiffy. And then I just did it every day. And I ended up getting like seasonal ties. So like Christmas time came around, and I had one where you press a button and it would light up. I had one that interacted with music, and it was you guys remember Think Geek, that website?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had tons of junk from there.
They had a tie that was a keyboard, and you could like press it. And so I learned like super stupid simple songs you could play on the tie keyboard or whatever. And even field day, like the hottest, worst day ever, I wore a silk purple suit. It was so hot. I was so sweaty. And I even did tug of war in a suit. I definitely made like everyone knew me. And the next year we get the syllabus. And I'm talking bold letters. Everything is in 12-point font. This is in 16, bold and underlined. No button-ups and ties.
So, I actually also got a rule changed when it comes to clothing in my school. And that's because in 5th grade, I refused to share the picture with anyone that I'm not actually close to. I wore this all pink outfit and these silver platform shoes. And the platform shoes had 5 to 7 inches on them.
It's such a look, Kate. You have to ask for this picture.
Please. Please.
You can't put it in.
I'm not gonna put it anywhere.
Okay. So, they were like probably 7-inch like platform shoes, and I wore these for like a week straight until that they changed in the rule book that I could not, like, you cannot wear platform shoes at that school anymore, just because I wore them so much, and they were afraid that I was going to break my ankle or something. Because like you see me, I don't look like someone who dresses up. I would wear these type of clothes with these fucking platform shoes on, and like,
oh my god,
they were like, this girl's going to break her ankles. Like, I can't walk on heels, but yeah.
I forgot which school
shoes.
it was, but there was a school where a kid got in the rule book. You cannot wear medieval armor because he just rocked up full chainmail and all, just ready to go, ready to crusade.
That's funny.
I think I had a very different experience with school in general.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I went to public school for a short while there, but it was already a chaotic time period. So mostly I just remember the bullying and my parents' divorce. But we moved into North Carolina. I was homeschooled for a while, and we decided to join a homeschool co-op.
Mm-hmm.
Homeschool co-ops are such a weird biosphere, because you've got a whole lot of people who were so antisocial that they didn't want to go to a school suddenly together. Like, you selected 4 people who didn't want to do group projects and created a super group.
Oof.
It was pretty crazy. I mean, depending on who you had as a teacher, like, which of the parents you had as a teacher for certain classes, you got some pretty extreme views. I remember this woman, I'll call her by her first name just because you'll enjoy it, Karen. She was like a really strong, like, Trump supporter, like, pro-lifer, like, absolutely crazy person, and that was my Spanish teacher. So, the
irony.
She was weird. She was just really weird.
Yeah.
So, like, I knew her, and her son was, like, an incel. He was kind of scary. Everyone talked about Caleb being, like, the guy who was gonna kill you in the locker. He had, like,
Caleb.
He talked a lot about, like, a woman's place and, like, what he wanted to do to women. And
oh, that kid.
He wouldn't
do a
talk,
lot of things to women.
He wouldn't talk to women directly. He would talk to men or their parents. He was a weird kid.
He was that dude. That. I know.
Oh yeah.
Caleb
was such a creature.
We had those.
We had a couple, but Caleb was like the archetype. I remember there was a conversation once of you could either I think it was you either have to kiss Caleb or drink this, like, container that we had of milk. Like, it was from a camp out that we did, but it was like the last year's camp out. Mm-hmm. Tall container of, like, milk and creamer that someone had mixed up. We were like, you either have to drink this or kiss Caleb, and my friend Neo was like, so it was a good time. But yeah, like, we had that teacher, and then my teacher, Miss Amy, who was, like, super, like, left-leaning, like, Pride Festival, titties out kind of woman.
Yep.
They ended up teaching civics and economics together. They got put together in the same classroom, and that was just amazing. One week we would have Miss Hommel teaching, and then one week we'd have Miss Amy teaching, and it became like an actual war between the two teachers on what got taught in that class. The presentations were absolutely crazy. We got paired up into one half of the room having to debate pro-slavery and the other having to debate anti-slavery one time.
Oh, I've had those, like, weird, like, presentations. And, okay, obviously I left college because one thing you notice, because I actually have a decent amount of people who are still like high school age, who watch and listen to all that. There's a lot of people who college just isn't for them. It's just not the vibe. Not everyone can do it, and it's not because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's just because it's not it. And like, if you decide like, hey, it's not for me, don't feel bad. Like, there's college kids I know who are just like, dude, I don't want to do this. I'm good. But one of the classes I took, I did an essay, and she had I didn't like the teacher because she was very much the professor who was, she really liked to push her beliefs on you, even though it had nothing to do with the class or the subject.
Yeah.
Right.
The whole point of the essay was going to be an argumentative piece. So you had to choose a topic and either be pro or con, and which side you're going to support. And she made a comment where she said, you can choose anything, but all these ones that are like, obviously they're not good. And she'd mentioned drunk driving. And I was like, I'm going to be pro drunk driving. And everyone gave me a look of like, you're a monster. You're awful. And then she gave me this whole like spiel on, you don't understand. That's not okay. And you know what? You do what you do. We'll see what grade you get. I ended up getting 100 on it because like I just played the game because I know how to play these teachers. So I just went full on. I found studies and did a whole thing on like drunk driving is bad, but it's good in the fact that without it happening, we wouldn't have laws and regulations in place to stop that. And even go back to like, I even brought up a study where like, I'm trying to think of the actual term, but something's innate. So like, you'll take a baby and you show it a bunny, like a real life bunny, and they'll typically walk up to it and pet it and be super fun. But for the majority of the time, if you take that same baby and put a snake in it that won't bite it and just put a snake by them, they'll freak out, scream, and start running away, even though the baby's never actually interacted with a snake before. It just knows that's not good, right? It's just something over time that we all just kind of know, like as creatures. And without the first person to actually do drunk driving and crash and die and then it keep going, we all now, especially like our age, not a lot of people our age are really drunk driving. All you have to do is call an Uber, you know? So it's just one of those things where without it happening, we wouldn't be where we are today. So it is a good thing.
Right.
I remember walking to get the car after one of my parents was out all night, like drunk, and they didn't drunk drive home. Instead, they walked home. Mm-hmm. Or they caught a ride home or something. But we had to walk and get the vehicle in the morning. There was no babysitter. It was like negative 20 degrees outside.
Oh, Jesus.
And it was icy as fuck. It was so slippery. And here we're out walking. I'm like 7. Mm-hmm. My youngest sibling is like 2 or 3 at this point.
Okay.
And we've got like a whole trail of all 4 of us walking in this super, super cold weather, bundled up, like 7 layers on, trying to get the car. And it's my mother's like, we'll never speak of this again.
You know, that's so odd. Like, I know you lived like kind of in a small town in Wisconsin. It's like if you were to walk like that in Missouri, there's always that weird like small town guy that'll be like, hey, you need a ride? And like, you trust that man. You trust that man with your fucking life. That
would have been a thing in Wisconsin if it wasn't for the fact that the entire town hated our family.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We were like the odd family out. Everyone was super prejudiced against us. Mm-hmm. Like no matter where we went, we weren't welcome in like certain places. So we weren't allowed in certain like restaurants. And
right.
Our neighbors constantly like invaded our house and stole the light bulbs out of our lamps and like tried to break into our basement while we were out of town one time. Like we got police calls on the regular, and all the police also hated us, so they were trying to get us. Mm. It was like absolutely horror movie. Like the entire town had turned against us by the time we finally moved out of that city. So wow. Like trying to do anything was weird because we were so like isolated. Mm. People wouldn't let their kids play with us. We had like literally no friends. It was kind of a weird time.
Yeah, I never got that feeling whatsoever with like towns. Like obviously
many people have.
Well, obviously that, but I'm referring to the safety of just being able to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna go walk and get the car. I can just walk around town.
Well, I mean, there's no one.
When it's -20 outside, no one's out.
Right.
So I was born in Ohio, but I was raised in like the Charlotte area of North Carolina, and with my parents being from Ohio, my mom especially being from Cincinnati, so like not a great town, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
She knows how to carry herself, and we got taught a lot of things on like how to protect yourself, how to be smart in bad areas, like don't do dumb things in the wrong places, because it's dangerous. And so we learned a lot. And one summer went to my uncle's house, and we stayed. He owns like 4 or 5 houses in the area because he likes to renovate them and then rent them out, and it's a good source of money for him. We stayed in one of those houses, and like right before we were gonna go to sleep, me and my brother were just sharing a room, and I hear like 2 dudes, like where the house was, right behind a parking lot to a church, and we just hear 2 dudes just arguing, just yelling, just normal things. You get used to it, and then I hear, "Oh yeah, motherfucker," and I hear, yeah, we left really quick, and
Oh no, you just ignore it. You look the other way.
no, because it didn't stop there. Like 4 or 5 people called the cops because apparently like those 2 went around the neighborhood, and it was not pretty. But like those types of things, I've just always been paranoid. I always lock my car no matter where I'm at. I always make sure everything's like, I double check my window, and no one touches
That's so weird. Where I came from, everyone left their keys in their car, like right in the keyhole, and left their cars in their driveway unlocked. Because like I lived in this like so much in the middle of nowhere that if your car got stolen, you know who stole it because they're driving your car around town. Like literally, I'm just so used to shit like that. Like yeah. I don't like I know to fear people, but also I know that I have dealt with a lot scarier people than the majority of people who could fuck with me now. So
you know, I've had kind of a weird like mixed experience because I grew up in that like little town in Wisconsin. So once, like you said, you know, if someone stole your car, you know who stole it because they're driving it around. Same kind of deal. Like it was very small town. You knew everybody. But then once everyone had turned on us, it was like, we have to lock our doors. We got a scary dog to protect our house from home invaders. You know, like people were legitimately out to get us. And my mother grew up in like, well, she grew up in Wisconsin, but she spent a lot of time in Chicago growing up. So she already had this kind of like mindset of like, you know, big city living, that I think was really helpful at the point when everyone was like legitimately trying to harm our family and steal from us. Yeah. To a point, you know, where like the cops literally do not care because we're sort of like free game.
Right.
People stole our lawnmower. Like there was just weird stuff that happened that should not have happened. When we were out of town, the cops called us and told us that there was soy sauce spilled in our kitchen. Like they should not have been inside our house, but they were telling us like, by the way, someone spilled. They were like, something nasty happened in your house. We think there's been partiers and like meth dealers and stuff. And we were like, what? So we come home and actually it's just that the neighbors had been fucking around inside our house and spilled soy sauce everywhere. Oh my god. Weird stuff like that. So I think moving to North Carolina was like such a unadjustment period where we did not talk to anyone, did not interact with the neighbors. We were afraid of everybody. And then it's like everyone's actually chill and like Southern hospitality is a thing and they're friendly.
I have a really similar experience to that because I went from Missouri where everyone is doing hardcore drugs and like is just fucking batshit insane. Like I lived like a mile down the road from a meth house that blew up. Like I know how insane everyone was. Like everyone was friendly with each other. Everyone knew everyone. But we didn't really fuck with anyone because you don't want to associate with everyone else. So you kept to yourself. I didn't have friends till I was like rather old, like 13 to 16, and even then I barely had friends. But when I moved to North Carolina, I was so scared to talk to anyone. Like I was like on the defense. I was ready for like at my old school, the initiation was the new kid always got jumped after school on their first day, and everyone would kick the shit out of them and leave them in the ditch. And if they got home, they got home. If they didn't, they didn't.
Right.
And so like the whole first day of school, I was like on high end defense. And Zach was actually one of the first people to talk to me. He's like, dude, why are you so fucking tense? I was like, I told him like the deal, and he's just like, that is not a thing around here. And then like the more I talk to people, everyone's just like chilled the fuck out. Like,
do you think your towns were so crazy because they were small towns and there was nothing else to do?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
They're just bored, like, well, let's just beat the
That's
shit out
not
of
even
kids.
it. No. It's not that they're bored. All right, they have plenty of shit to do. They got like, I hate this. There's mud and people soup up their lawnmowers and race them. Like there is shit to do. Fishing, the lake, hunting. No, they were not bored. It is just like small towns are. So normally small towns go in like weird groups. So you have your small town, then there's like the 3 or 4 neighboring small towns, which all like associate with each other school-wise and is like rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
But the towns themselves are kind of all like a square to a pyramid. And within that, you have your couple of small town vibes. And you either associate with them very vaguely, like you don't act like you associate with them, but you do. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you move schools that way, or you like people get married between the 2 towns. But other than that, you have this circle of 4 towns that is all completely inbred because every single town runs on a last name hierarchy. And then you never leave the town if you're from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when I say you never leave the town, I know people in these small towns who have never left the state, let alone left the town itself for a vacation at all other than going to the lake.
Mm-hmm. There's even people down here in Florida who are like that. Like at the company we bought out, the first location was in a place called Arcadia, and it's like where Tampa is. It's 2 hours south. Mm-hmm. And there were like a lot of people who work there had never left that town.
Right. And it is just, it's like that in like the small town Midwest, to the point that they are so culty that if you do not like go to church every Sunday with these people, like live by their like beliefs on any standpoint, that's when you start to be shunned and pushed out. Now, my parents moved in from California to the small town in Missouri, mm-hmm. and I was born there. And even though I was born there and I went to school in a different town that wasn't part of this like weird 4-town like thing, even though this other town was rather closer than like, you know, one of these other ones, mm-hmm. I was not considered part of the school at all. I had no friends because no one knew my last name because it wasn't Winkler, Smith, Spinagle, or Eschler. And because I wasn't one of those 4 last names, I was not popular. Because I wasn't there since kindergarten, preschool, I was not popular, even though I went to preschool with like half the kids in my class. They didn't remember me because it was preschool. And I came in 4th grade. Mm-hmm. Basically, I had to earn my keep, which is why I became like top tier bully in that school. Because if I didn't, I just would have gotten my shit kicked in on the daily. And then like by the time I left, because I left, people got mad at me because I left. Like, I left that small town. Everyone just shut me out friend-wise. And they're just like, I'm sorry, you're not here anymore, so you don't belong among us, basically. So I had no friends by the time I left. And I just completely started over. And good and bad, I don't make friends anymore. Just because, like, you know, I'm used to people just, like, cutting me off completely. But on the other hand, I'm also ready for friends to leave, and it doesn't bother me much anymore, where other people get really upset when their friends are gone. I'm just like, shit happens. And it makes it easy for me to go from place to place. Mm-hmm. And also easy for me to make, like, online friends super, super quick. So.
Yeah. So, I didn't have that too much. I'm not sure if... I'm pretty sure you two can tell at least. I really kind of just make friends with anybody.
Right.
Obviously, I have people I don't fuck with, and typically it's for a reason. It's not just because, like, it's just maybe not. You don't seem like my type. If I don't fuck with you, it's because something happened.
Right.
I typically, I'm good with everybody, and, like, school wise, I always saw popular meaning like, you know, the top tier of the kids. But like definition wise, and from what all my other friends have said, the popular kid is the one who's like cool with everybody. And I technically was popular because I was friends with the nerds, the cheerleaders, jocks, the weird kids were my favorite. Band kids, art kids, theater kids, teachers, janitors, I was chill with. Like I can pretty much get a vibe with anybody. But the school that I went to, so it's the magnet school. The way it works is you take the whole county you live in, and each county has a ton of schools, and it takes the top tier from each school and then pulls them to one big school. Mm-hmm. And
right.
So how every school has like the set bar for your like academic level, because everyone who's going to the school is already above it, that raises the bar, so you have to excel just to be average. So like because no one knows anybody, like your school might have 2 to 4 people that you know show up because they got in. And so everybody on their first few days is definitely on that like prison vibe where no one's saying a word. I didn't speak for the first 3 days of school. I just stared and I didn't do anything. And this one kid, Wiley, he ended up being like one of my good friends throughout high school, but he definitely took it a little further than the rest of us. And our first interaction was I was in the locker room and he threw his chemistry book at me and it hit really hard and I didn't like it. And he had this like hoodie he always wore. So I grabbed him by the hood and I threw him against the locker. I broke a locker and dented the other one, and that one locker doesn't open anymore. And we ended up being cool after that. But after that happened, I started getting cool with everybody because they were like, okay, I want to be on your good side. We're good. And I'm not the type to go out and just fight somebody. I'm not. Like, if I need to, I can. But I prefer to, like, settle shit with words before it gets to that. And, like, you two have met me in person. I'm not the type to just go throw hands with somebody.
Yeah, like, you're a super sweet guy. Like teddy bear material.
I will talk mad shit, 100%. But I definitely will, every time I will try to, like, resolve it before it escalates to that. And that really was the only time I felt the outsider experience, was just nobody liked each other. Everyone was on the outs.
Now, my school was set up to where kindergarten through 12th grade, it was all one school. Like, all one building. The building was just split in half, and high school was on one side, elementary was on the other. There was no such thing as middle school. Mm-hmm. Now, 6th grade was the end of elementary, and then 7th grade was high school. So 7th grade was when I was starting to deal with all the 9th through seniors, which are already entitled on their own because they're, like, pretty much almost out of there. So 7th grade was when I was, like, at the peak of my harassment. Like, I'd already been harassed for being, like, the quiet, sweet girl who sat there and read the whole time, 4th through 6th grade. 6th grade, I was starting to get on that breaking point because I was, like, really starting to become a hardcore, like, internet person. Like, I was constantly on the internet talking shit in the depths, you know. 7th grade came around, and some kid came up to me. He's just like, nice lesbian shoes, faggot, and I lost it. Like, that was when I just absolutely snapped, because I was wearing these Doc Martens, which was the passed-down shoes from my mom. Mm-hmm. And it was all we had because we were rather poor, like, shit. And so, I don't know if you've ever seen a Doc Marten, but the sole on those is, like, about 2 inches. And then they're also steel-toed. Yep. Well, I just kind of lost it. And while we were sitting in the library, he said that, and I whipped around and kicked him in the shin. And then I continued kicking him until he was crying on the ground. And I was just like, yeah, my lesbian shoes are pretty nice. And then I walked off, and I later found out that I actually, like, splintered his shin in a couple of spots. And he had to walk around with crutches because he kept coming up to me going, I can't feel my leg anymore. I was like, oh, sucks to be you. Oh. And that was, like, when everyone realized that I'd lost it. Like, no one just did that in the middle of school. I mean, people did, but, like, not that openly. And then, like, a couple weeks after, the superintendent's son's kid was fucking around with my friend, and she's just like, dude, knock it off. And I was just like, dude, knock it off. And then he's just like, yeah, what are you guys going to do about it? She's, like, picked up these scissors. She's like, I'm going to cut you. I'm going to cut you with these scissors. It's like, you won't fucking cut me. And like I ripped them out of her hand and I whipped them open. I like did this like weird thing. I was like, I'll fucking cut you. And he slapped his hand down in front of me, and I took the scissors and just sliced it from like right about here all the way down to the side of his hand. And he was just bleeding. And he's like, teacher, she cut me. And the teacher like looked up from her desk and went, what are you going to do? Tell your dad? And then looked back down at her desk. I got away with that one too. And after that, no one fucked with me. Like everyone was so scared that I was going to like shoot up the school or anything like crazy like that they all either became my friend or just did not associate with me at all. And that's when I became popular. Everyone knew me, and we were either friends or they were terrified of me.
You'd mentioned crutches. There was a point in high school where so my first girlfriend, we were hanging out on the soccer field, and we were like trying to go somewhere, but it had rained, so like it was just muddy in the middle. And when we had started to run, my ankles are here. This one decided to just completely go 90 degrees, and I needed crutches for a while, and then I started using a cane because I could walk kind of, but I'm not gonna lie, the last like 2 months of it, I definitely milked it because I got to use the elevator.
Right, of course.
But the first bit, I actually couldn't walk. I needed something to help walk, and because none of the like there was a good amount of people I was good with, but there were people who really liked sticking in their bubble and didn't want to talk to anybody. They're like, no, I'm good. If they would have talked to me, they would have learned that like, no, I actually got hurt and I need this. So like behind my back, like a large amount of the school just like kept making fun of me, and I found out like a year later, and I was just like, what? And they're like, yeah, we just started. Remember when you walked around with that stupid cane thinking you looked cool? And I was like, what are you talking about? I said, yeah, we just started calling you the Penguin and just made fun of you a lot. And then I was just like, I actually couldn't walk. Like my ankle was like in half, and they were like, oh well, don't I feel like a piece of shit now? And I was like, yeah, you should.
You kind of are. Yeah, shit.
It was not fun.
I got injured a couple of times while I was in school. The first time being, I don't know if you know what like a cherry bomb is, but if you're on the seesaw and you're like on this end and the other person's on this end, they can like randomly jump off and you'll just slam down.
Yep.
Someone did that to me and I smashed my face into the seesaw, and actually this tooth is fake. Like most of it is fake because it actually broke in half.
Oh wow. That was so rude. That was so rude.
No. It's just because, like, I forced her to get into this morph suit last Halloween, basically. And we went on a Starbucks run, and on the walk home, she tripped down the side of the mountain, and she went face first into this no parking sign pole, and then busted her tooth for a second time.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Oh my god.
The front of my mouth is messed up, like, because I bashed it into metal multiple times. Yes. Yeah. But, I did that. I also, like, I ended up fracturing my ankle. There were, like, a couple of weird things that I ended up doing across the school year. Some of them because people kept kicking the shit out of me, and some of them just because I'm a clumsy motherfucker. But, I do remember that. Like, my whole, like, legacy at the school, other than just being incredibly weird, was, like, I was the person who did not cry or complain at any point. That was, like, really well known. Didn't matter what happened to me. So there was kind of, like, a running bet going among, like, a bunch of people on who was going to get me to cry first. Thankfully, none of them were Phoenix. Because I don't think anyone went quite as far as they could have. But, like, I do remember a lot of just getting the shit kicked out of me, mostly.
Oh, I definitely would have killed you if we were friends in school, because, we wouldn't have been friends. And I always did dumb shit that you are, like, terribly allergic to. Like, we'd go to after-school events, and they'd give shit away, because, you know, everyone was poor. They'd give out, like, deodorant and stuff like that. And my ticket got called, and I was like, dude, I'm eyeballing that Axe body spray right there. They're like, oh, yeah, sure, you can have it. Yeah, I tied that shit up and threw it into the crowd on the football field, and I swear that whole can emptied out because no one went to get it. Everyone just cleared out, and the whole can sprayed, and the football field smelled like that Axe body spray for like a week afterwards.
People made fun of me hardcore for having food allergies. I mean, for one, I wasn't able to eat anything.
Yeah.
Like, we have like a day where people bring in like cookies or whatever. I obviously can't have that. I couldn't eat really the school lunches, so I had to bring my own. People would usually like take my lunch and throw it on the floor because they could.
Yeah.
And honestly, half the time the teachers would just take it away because they didn't think what I was eating looked like food. And they didn't like me either. So
no, I never did fuck with anyone's food because my friend Haley could only afford like the school lunches, and people would fuck up her food so bad that she would just eat through it. Actually, like it was unedible to almost anyone, but that was the only food she got. So she'd eat the school lunch no matter what, and that pissed me off to the point that, like, never ever did I fuck with anyone's food. Mm-hmm. Because, like, most of them weren't getting fed at home. That's just not cool. So I'm a fair bully, but I fuck people up.
People definitely fucked with my food pretty often. I even remember having, like, an allergic reaction multiple times because, like, I was just gonna eat it anyway, no matter what right. Really. People would often like spit in it, and like you said, suck the spit off your hand. I'd be like, yeah. People would often take my food, chew it up, and spit it back in, stuff like that. It wasn't like a big deal, but it was annoying. And that's when people even interacted with me. For the most part, I had like a whole table to myself, and I just chilled out all by myself back
Can we
there.
Talk about how the three of us, especially when you take like our school experiences, very different.
Yeah.
Haze over here just trying to get by, being very sweet, kind to everybody, and just obviously getting.
She was not sweet and kind. She was like a fucking weirdo.
Getting the bad end of the stick.
Underneath the desks and like bite people's ankles and lick their kneecaps.
Never mind.
That was at recess.
No, my whole point's going now. Haze ruined it.
Trash off the ground just because I could, and people would be like, "Are you gonna eat that?" And I'd be like,
Never mind.
I remember this kid across the street, Linus. I was faster than him, even if he was on a bike, and I had to hold up that. I had to hold that up because he would chase me down on the bike, and I'd run fast, so he wouldn't hit me with it. He ran me over a couple times. It was funny. I remember him and like getting this older guy. They came over and forced me to eat worms one day. They were like, "Do you like worms? Do you like worms?" And I was like, "Yeah, I love worms." And they were like, "Here's some worms." And they like stuffed it into my mouth, and I was like,
"You're so creepy. Stop that."
I got weird and creepy, like as a good defense against these people being so constantly awful to me.
Okay,
I wasn't sweet and kind.
Okay,
at all.
Okay, my point stands. I just have to alter it. You. Creepy and weird shit, just going all out. You got Phoenix, straight up bully, like made kids cry because she thought it was fun, and then I just kind of vibed out. I was chill with anybody and everybody, and yet three of us are probably like really close now. Like I consider you two.
Oh yeah,
like,
absolutely,
definitely real life friends.
Like, man, you're one of my best. Like
I'd probably consider you one of my better friends, Cage.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. It's definitely different because it really is a coin toss when you meet someone online for the first time. Like when I met Pin, I thought, oh, it's going to be awkward. No, because Pin on Discord is Pin in real life. It's just as chaotic, and he's just as open, if not more. Like, all that ramen, it's real. It's stacks.
Yeah, I know.
There's more under his bed, by the way. I figured out why he's named Pin Freak. Because... him and his dad's really love Disneyland or Disney World, and every time you get a pin, and then they collect pins, and he has like 4 binders filled with pins. So Pin Freak.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and he's super cool. So I was fine with that. And then meeting you two, I was terrified, but at the same time, it went really well.
Though.
It went really well.
I understand. We were kind of scared too. Like, we were like, all right, Cage is a homie. But on the other hand, we are driving out to some random man.
I'm going to be honest, I was not scared in the slightest, right? Like, the people at my work were scared for me. And I was just like, now you guys gotta listen to me. I was like, Cage might be like twice my size. I was like, but I've dealt with worse. Like, I'm not afraid to kick his ass. And if he thinks he's going to come murder me, I think he's in for a little surprise. They just looked at me, and I was just like, and that's all I have to say about that. And so, like, I knew you were like a big teddy bear. Like, there's no way I could be scared of you. And so I was okay with going out to see you.
I wasn't too worried because I knew I was with Phoenix.
So, okay, what were your first thoughts of actually meeting me? Because my first thoughts were Phoenix, obviously the first one. Damn, you're short. But like,
Yep.
obviously, okay, IRL Phoenix, you can be just as mean, but you're definitely more held back. A little more. I feel like having it be through the internet, you're a little more uninhibited, and you can just you go for it. You shoot for the walls, you just go for it. But in real life, you'll say the same thing, but you'll definitely hold back a little bit.
Yeah, I'm a lot more quiet in person.
Haze, you're way taller than I expected, and you're like way
Why
nicer
do people
in
think
person.
I'm like 3 feet tall?
No, I assumed. Okay, I assumed your heights to be reversed. That's how I thought. Was you weren't like midget, but you were definitely shorter, and then Phoenix would be taller. That's false.
Yeah,
it's reversed. Yeah. But at the same time, you both are like super nice and like really kind and thoughtful, and I didn't expect like as like to the extent of how nice you were. And then obviously the West Virginia trip was chaotic as fuck, but that was fun.
The West Virginia trip was a little off the rails. Oh boy, my first initial thought of you, Cage, was that you were shorter than I was expecting. I was expecting you to be a little bit taller.
Everyone expects 6 foot. I even have it as a chat command.
Yeah, it's so weird. Because like the way I view myself is I view myself a lot taller than I actually am too, which is why I come off as a taller person on the internet. So like even when I meet people taller than me, I feel like I'm the same height as them. So when me and Cage are like pretty equal to me, I was like, huh, that's fucking interesting. I thought you were definitely going to be taller.
Kind of equal. Name, you're 5'2". Calm down.
Damn, we're kind of equal. And then my second thought was like, yeah, you're definitely like the teddy bear type, huggable dude, super sweet.
I think my first thought was, Cage is adorable! And that was like my thought for like probably 4 minutes.
I remember at one point Phoenix just said, you know, you can distract Haze by showing her tiny things. And so I handed you 2 things, and like for 20 minutes, you just sat there and just laughed to yourself holding them. And
I gotta say, our first meeting wasn't quite normal either, because we went outside and just fucked my truck on like 3 different occasions together. And you like fucked my truck so hard it came back and hit you in the balls, and you were like down on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Then we just went to Walmart. I picked up SpaghettiOs. And then we had an argument that SpaghettiOs are far superior to spaghetti alphabets, or the letters. And I still stand by that. The letters taste different.
The letters taste different, and they're nasty.
I agreed that the letters tasted different. There wasn't much argument.
It was awful. I think it was with the other one. The argument happened. Where it was like, yeah. But even then, like, I feel like I try to give off the, like I'm fairly calm, and I'm fine with anybody. I can be friends, but I also kind of don't like that, because there's also a part where like somebody's gonna see that and see it as like weakness and try to like get one over on me. I've been in fights. I know what I'm doing, and it's like I can. If I have to, I can. I just don't like to. I prefer to be calm, but that's life, I guess.
Really stand up for myself at all.
No, I actually tell Haze that I'm gonna kick her shit, and if she doesn't stand up for herself a little bit more, quite often.
Go ahead.
I'm just at a point where I'm like, I'm just gonna keep to myself and be quiet, and hope that no one really looks at me or notices me that much, because if they do, I don't know what's gonna happen, and I just really wouldn't want to have a conflict, and it's scary, and I don't like it. Which kind of works out terribly when like those people are my housemates.
I definitely
prefer her housemates are awful to her.
Oh God, I prefer to settle things, settle confrontations by words. Like typically, the furthest my arguments will go is we'll just start roasting each other, and either I'll win or I'll let them win, because I'm just like, let's just end this. I just want to go away. I want to go home. I'm bored.
I remember you guys having like obviously joking, but like a fun roast contest going in the front car. I wish I had turned the camera on because you guys were just going at it for so long, and I was losing it in the
there
back
was one
seat.
It was
point.
like,
There was one point I think I overstepped a little bit, and you just started laughing for like 15 minutes, and I was just like, "Are you good?" And you're like, "I fucking hate you."
well, like, it's because, like, I was like, okay, so it was the West Virginia trip, and me and Cage were in the front seat, and Haze was in the back seat, and, I think it once again was kicked off by me doing the little kid voice, and then he said something to me, I said something to him, he said something back to me, I said something a little bit way harder to him, then he's just like, look here, and he had like this like gay persona going on, he's like, look here, you emo blue-haired looking scrawny ass anorexic having ass bitch, and then he went off, and like, I was just like, I didn't know what to do, like I was laughing so hard because it was funny, but like he definitely hit me at every single point he possibly could, and like
he literally just went for it. He like pulled out no stop. He went.
Look, I'm telling you, that's what I
was
mean.
losing it.
I can hang. I just don't prefer to. If it comes down to it, I will swing for the fences. I've got that.
Dude, your roast game is absolutely amazing.
it was
her.
so funny. It
You
was so
read her
funny.
like a book.
I think the best part was you were cry laughing, and then Haze is in the back just screaming, just saying, it's so accurate.
Because I know Phoenix really, really well.
Right, we lived together for a year, so like me and Haze know each other way more than we should.
Yeah, it gets a little weird sometimes, actually.
I hate to cut it off here, but it has been a fun episode and a little bit longer, but I think it's definitely going to be worth it. And
okay, absolutely.
Again, thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, no, thank you for inviting us, Cage.
Yeah, this was really, really just a blast.
If you guys want to go check out their Twitch links, Phoenix, yours is LSL__ gaming.
That's right.
And then Haze is Haze__ games with a Z. Did I get that right?
I think so.
I think that's exactly it.
Fair enough. Next week's episode, I actually already have scheduled, so I don't have to announce it on Twitter. I still will, but it is Oh That's So James. So we're going to have a British homie on the podcast. It's going to be fun.
That's awesome.
I'm going to say pip pip cheerio and piss him off.
Pip pip cheerio.
Pip pip cheerio. But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. I guess I'll see you next week. Peace.